Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, as today we got another episode of reviewing NHL teams off-season so far. As today we got the New Jersey Devils that we're going to be looking at, as they made some massive moves to massively improve the team this upcoming season. And quite honestly, I like a lot of the moves that they did do. The only contract that I'm a little skeptical about is the Palau contract, which we'll be getting into a little bit later on, but there's a lot to like about what the New Jersey Devils did. So before we get into talking about the Devils, I'd like to just say, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button as well. It'll be very much appreciated there, boys. So let's get into this bad one here with the New Jersey Devils, as you know, they don't have a whole lot of cap space going into this upcoming season, but you look at the amount of guys that are ending in contracts this upcoming year is a lot. You got Bratt, Tatar, Janssen. I wish they did get Bratt to a long-term contract. I feel like they're definitely going to regret that one, but at the same time, I don't know if they really want to keep Jesper Bratt as well in this situation, because of the fact that they already got Alexander Holtz, who's can't be that far away from being in the NHL. He really can't. He had an amazing season in the AHL. He really can't be that far away from stepping into a New Jersey Devils uniform. So let's just get right into what Tom Fitzgerald did this past offseason. So before we talk about the trades, we're going to talk about the draft, which I quite honestly really like his draft. Once again, he went after another top-pairing defenseman in this year's draft, in Simon Nemec, which I think this was probably the best pick to go with. Quite honestly, Simon Nemec, really, really good defenseman, will be a top-pairing defenseman for the New Jersey Devils in the future. Did some great stuff in the Slovak League. Really did great in the Olinka Gretzky Cup. The World Cup, he did pretty good. Simon Nemec was just all over the place. He was, in general, playing a lot of hockey, and he looked good in every piece of hockey that he played, even in the playoffs in the Slovak League. 17 points in 19 games. This is an amazing two-way defender who plays very strong defensively, great stick, and he just is a great passer, and I think this is going to be a great guy to add when you already have Luke Hughes as well to add to this insane core. So there's a lot to like about Simon Nemec. And then right after that, they picked up Seamus Casey, which is another great pick as well. Another great two-way defender who moves the puck really nicely as well. Another great pick here for the New Jersey Devils. The rest of the draft wasn't too bad. Tyler Brennan, I feel like he might be a decent goalie, but, you know, he's had some up and down. Didn't have an insane season with the Cougars. But another guy that, you know, adds to the depth of the core. But the rest of the draft, not very much known about, but Casey and Nemec will most likely be in the NHL. Casey being like a third-pairing defenseman, while Nemec will definitely be a top-pairing defenseman in the future here for the New Jersey Devils. So moving forward, let's get on to the trades, which the Devils were quite you know, active with their trades. In the very first one, they picked up Vtech Venezik in a second, while they dumped off one of their seconds, basically just moving down in that second round, and a third-round pick. And I really like this move. Really, they didn't have to trade away a whole lot. Basically, they just traded back in the second round and traded a third-round pick to pick up Vtech Venezik. Now, with Venezik, he has been an all-right goaltender. You know, he's been able to play, you know, 30 to 40 games per season for the Washington Capitals. He's put up a respectable record, but it's not an insane record where it's like, hey, this guy could be your future starting goalie, because right after that, they did hand him a $3.4 million contract for the next 3 years. So I don't know, man. It's not a terrible move if Vtech Venezik pans out, and that's kind of the gamble you have to take, right? Like, in this moment in time, you got Mackenzie Blackwood, who just really was not your guy last year. He really wasn't, and if he's not going to be your guy going into next year, then at least you have Vtech Venezik that can at least help out a little bit and be that guy for you going into next year. So it's definitely a little bit of a concern here for the Devils, I think. But I think Vtech Venezik will do all right, but he's never really been a proven goalie, so I'm going to kind of take a few points off of it for locking him up on a $3.4 million deal, which is not a huge, massive risk compared to what other contracts we've seen so far this year. But I still say it is a little bit of a risk, because if Vtech Venezik doesn't pan out, then you're kind of stuck with that type of contract for the next 3 years. And with the deal, you didn't have to trade away a whole lot. So honestly, I see it evening out. You know, bad contract, but you really didn't have to trade up a whole lot. You only really had to give up a third and move back in the second round. And then they traded away Pavel Zacha for Eric Holla. Honestly, I do see this as a mini W. Yes, you did trade for the worst player in Eric Holla, without a doubt. But with Eric Holla, he has 1 year left on his contract, so you could legit just get rid of him going into next year. With Pavel Zacha, you were going to have to give him the big bucks, which he took a $3.5 million deal, which quite honestly, you just weren't able to afford. You know, you weren't able to fit under the cap, especially when you're trying to get everyone back into the books with Brat, and then also bringing in Marino. And I think they had one other guy that they had to sign in Palat as well, right? You just didn't have the money to keep in Pavel Zacha, so it makes sense to go after Eric Holla, who would have a cheaper AAV and is just going to be a cheaper guy. He plays all right defensively this past season, produces a little bit of offense. He's just not a bad contributor. Won't be a bad third-line player there for the New Jersey Devils. And then a big deal is the Devils picked up John Marino for Ty Smith in a third-round pick. Ty Smith just wasn't able to fit into the uniform here for the New Jersey Devils, wasn't able to find his perfect spot. And honestly, I do like them picking up Marino. I think Marino's a very, very good top 6 defense, or not even top 6 defense, but top 4 defenseman. And with him being locked up at $4.4 million for the next, 5 years, that is a stellar deal. John Marino's a really, really good defender. I've always been a big fan of Marino ever since he's, touched the ice there with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's just, your typical solid defensive defenseman, which I think they needed another defensive defenseman like that. You already got single Tyler Graves is a little bit like that, but now you had another guy like John Marino, who's another big defensive defenseman who's just going to be out there to solidify things. I think it's another great pickup here for the New Jersey Devils. And you were going to have to trade away Ty Smith sooner or later, and really Ty Smith doesn't fit into the fold anymore when you got Luke Hughes, and not just that, you also got Simon Nemec coming up the pipeline. You really don't have to worry about trading away a player like Ty Smith. Yeah, it's a bit of a risk, but in the end, you really don't need a guy like Ty Smith because now you have Luke Hughes and Simon Nemec coming up the pipeline. So I think this is a really good move here by the New Jersey Devils. Absolutely love the John Marino trade. I do like it for the Pittsburgh Penguins because they need a player like Ty Smith, but this is the type of deal that I think benefits both teams. I really do believe that. There's not a lot of trades that benefit both teams, but this is the type of deal that really does benefit both. Now we'll move on to the signings here, and for the signings, we got a decent amount here as well. We'll start off with Brennan Smith. He signed a 2-year contract worth $1.1 million. Also, Jack Hughes got signed before the offseason as well, but that was way back in November 30th. That was kind of way back. But yeah, Jack Hughes locked up as well, which I do like the Jack Hughes contract. It's pretty well worth it. I know he's pretty young, but I mean, if you want to lock him up, you got to pay the big price to lock up a star like that. And then they also got Andre Palat for 5 years at $6 million. And I said I was going to talk about this a little bit on how it's a little bit of a risk. Because of the fact that Andre Palat's that type of player where it's like a Kyle Pozo. I mean, he's not identical to Kyle Pozo, but he's kind of very similar to that, right? He's that type of player where, he's 31 years of age. You just hand him a 5-year contract. If he really doesn't stay at the level that he's playing, this could really hurt the New Jersey Devils, without a doubt. It really could hurt them if they're having a player that's, you're paying $6 million to play on the third line if he really doesn't pan out being that guy. Now, Andre Palat is an amazing pickup, honestly. He really is. If he could be the guy that he has been over the past few years, this is going to be a stellar player for the New Jersey Devils. They're, again, an amazing two-way player who plays fantastic in the playoffs and generates a decent amount of offense during the regular season. He can bring some very big veteran leadership to this team as well. Probably playing up on that top line, as I already have the depth chart right over here. But he's going to definitely be playing up on that top line, most likely with Hughes or Brad, or he's going to be playing with Heischer and Mercer. I think it's a good pickup for Palat, but the risk is that near the ending of the contract, it might hurt them a little bit. I feel like the first 2-3 years won't be too bad at Palat's contract, but near the end, it's going to be a really bad contract, and it's not going to look good in the books of the New Jersey Devils. So it's a big risk that they're taking signing this type of contract, but quite honestly, when you're looking into next season, they're looking not bad cap-wise when you have a ton of players coming off the books, and you really don't have to re-sign a whole lot of them back because of your younger players that sooner or later are going to be jumping up on the main roster. So it's an all right pickup, not amazing though. Then they got Vtech Venezik, which we already talked about. Not the greatest value in the world, but we'll have to see if he pans out and, becomes a good goalie. But this is probably around the range for a 908 goaltender for like a 260 goals against average. That's about what it's worth for a goalie like Vtech Venezik. Jonas Singletheiler, I fucking love this move. 5 years at 3.4. This is a steal of a deal. Like, Jonas Singletheiler is one of the best defensive defensemen in the entire league this past season, and locking him up on an amazing deal like that is an absolute steal when he could be your top 4 defenseman. This is exactly what you want to get. Jonas Singletheiler is amazing, especially if he continues playing alongside Dougie Hamilton. That's going to be an amazing pair, you know, all the way up until 2028 to get to play with each other. So, amazing pair to lock up for the future. And they're doing a really smart job of getting defensemen locked up on cheap contracts, right? One, Severson, because most likely Severson won't return next year, especially now that they have Marino. They'll just go with Marino and Dougie Hamilton, Singletheiler, and then they'll worry about whoever on the left side, maybe even Luke Hughes, will be ready to go into the next season. So I really, really love what the New Jersey Devils are doing with their defense score. It's really, really smart, making smart moves to try to lock up defensemen long term on really cheap deals, because they know they're going to have to spend money on other players here in the future as well. So really, really smart move there by the Devils. Then Jesper Bratt, another really good move. I mean, if you were going to try to lock him up, you were going to have to pay him a crap ton of money, and quite honestly, get him on, you know, a 1-year deal worth $5.45 million is not a bad move, especially if you really do believe maybe Holtz will be ready to go and you really won't need Bratt going into next season. And then they got Miles Wood back on a $3.2 million deal. He was injured for most of the season, so not very much stats to talk about him, but the year before he played pretty well. So I don't know if he's really worth $3.2 million, but if he continues to be a good two-way guy, he produces some offense, that's not a bad bet there for the New Jersey Devils. So, looking at this team at this upcoming season, you know, this is a really young team. You know, a lot of concerns with their goaltending, of course, on how well that will do. Their defensive core is looking quite solid this upcoming season. So with a, you know, really solid defense core, there might be a boost in play with both Venezik and Blackwood, because honestly, the New Jersey Devils weren't amazing defensively last year, and their forward core is still looking very, very strong, and I'm excited to see what the New Jersey Devils will do. So, what's my grade on this team? Because honestly, it is definitely very back and forth. I don't mind the Bratt, Wood, Singletheiler. I wish you could get Bratt locked up long term, but you just simply didn't have enough cap. And with the younger players that are coming up the pipeline, do you really want to lock up Jesper Bratt and take that risk of maybe not having a spot for Alexander Holtz? Because especially with Dawson Mercer coming up the pipeline, and then you might have Alexander Holtz take a spot there as well, you really might not need Jesper Bratt here in the future. So it's not a bad deal. Jonas Singletheiler, amazing move. Vtech Venezik is Palat's another The draft is pretty good. The trades were really good. Honestly, I think I'm going to give this team, honestly, a BB+. I think I'm going to go in the middle. I think I'm going to go with a B this year. You know what? I'll be nice. I'll give them a B+, because I did like a lot of the moves that they did do. None of them is really hurting the team. Plot's contract's not like it's abysmal. Not like it's like $7 million. It's only at 6. So it's not the worst contract in the world. And I think near the end, it does go into a no trade clause. So that's the kind of the thing, like I was saying, if he's really bad during the first, or really good during the first 3 years, and he starts tailing off during the last 2, then hey, you know, you could trade him for, you know, whatever you may need to. You might need to dump off a few picks, but in that moment, you're going to try to be a playoff team, so it might not be a bad idea to dump off a lot if he's not playing too well. So not a bad move there. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with a B+. I really like all the moves that they did do. Of course, a lot of them are big gambles, which is the reason why I'm kind of docking them down a little bit with Vtech Venezik. That's a gamble. Palat is a big gamble if he doesn't really continue to pan out. So, honestly, pretty good offseason here for the New Jersey Devils. I really like what they did. But for now, guys, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Adios, amigos.